Yeah, without a doubt, Shane. Well, like I said, we got a question here, fan question, and hey, we're going to rely on you guys more and more the next couple of weeks before we get into media days and everything like that. So if you got a question for us, just shoot it to us. You can hit us up on Gmail, thatsecpodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter like Mr. Justin Rodriguez did, Shane. He's got a question for us. With Arkansas playing a minimum of 6 ranked teams this season, if the Razorbacks were to lose to only Alabama, does that resume make them a playoff contender? Hashtag bold predictions there from old Justin. But, yeah, let's go down the schedule real quick here, Shane, maybe to give, in case you don't got it in front of you and everything. But Arkansas.
We're in full off-season form here, because I'm curious about that with Georgia. Like if we beat Alabama but lose to Georgia, do we make the playoffs? So, all right. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see what you got here, Mike. Let's get that schedule pulled up.
Yeah, so the home opener, of course, Cincinnati. It's a game we've talked all about. Cincinnati just went to the college football playoff. That's going to be a tough opener there for the Razorbacks. Week 2.
But winnable.
Very winnable. Week 2. Hosting a South Carolina Gamecock team coming off a 7-win season, a bowl win season that's added via the transfer portal.
I would like to do something here, Mike. Before you get too far into this thing, let's just put our optimistic hat on, because obviously when I saw this, I immediately chuckled a little bit inside. But again, as a true fan, you can kind of create some of these. I mean, it could happen. It really could happen. So as we're going down the schedule, let's put our optimistic hat on, and let's get Arkansas to a college football playoff, okay? So Cincinnati, they come out, they beat them because obviously their best player left last year in the draft, which is coming up. South Carolina, finding themselves. I'll let you continue from there.
And then Missouri State, coached by Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, easy Vic.
Should beat them by about 50.
Texas A&M. It's interesting.
Texas A&M, of course, a neutral field there in Arlington. You beat snap at streak last year, beat the Aggies. Gonna have to do it 2 years in a row, I would think, which I think could be in the cards. Certainly not a lock, but that's a coin flip type game. Now here's the game he was referencing here. Alabama, they do come to Razorback Stadium. They went toe to toe with the Crimson Tide last season in Tuscaloosa. So he's saying he's conceding that they'll drop that one. But now, again, here, it doesn't get much easier, Shane. At Mississippi State, them cowbells clanging. This has been a tough game. Of course, Arkansas's won it the last 2 years, but it's been tight both seasons there under Sam Pittman and Mike Leach. That's not going to be a gimme. And then at BYU, which who the hell knows what you're getting with BYU. 1 year they're undefeated, the next year they're winning 6 ball games, but they're full of 27-year-old men out there because of their missions and all that. So I guess it all just depends on who's on the mission, who's back from the mission. Was there a quarterback involved in that deal? I don't know, but
it's probably an early game. Get them old guys out there, They don't like them night games. They probably don't even have lights in BYU just for that reason.
Then you got 2 weeks to prepare for a road trip at Auburn. Of course, Auburn beat you last year and beat you at home. So that's not one you can overlook if you're a Razorback fan. Liberty, Hugh Freeze's Liberty comes to town. Of course, they're losing their quarterback, so who knows how good Liberty's going to be. LSU at home. Ole Miss at home, and you finish up at Missouri. Again, I'm not seeing any games there that you say Arkansas's got no shot to win. And hell, I'm even including the Alabama game.
Right.
So,
boy, that is interesting. We were tagged in something earlier this week talking about the toughest 3-game stretch, and I'm looking at Arkansas' schedule, and yes, they've got that juggernaut right there at Texas A&M, Alabama, then Mississippi State. I think that's the toughest 3-game stretch that any team's going to face right now. But the fact you got Alabama at home, the fact you got A&M technically at a neutral field, a little bit more of a away game, but, who knows? Jimmy likes them Razorbacks. Maybe he'll do something down there for him, So, but I just did I say Jimmy? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, man. It's getting late. Jerry, I mean, but what I'm getting at here, Mike, if you win one of those games, I know he talked about Alabama, but I'm a firm believer Texas A&M's got a real shot to win the SEC championship here. Mm-hmm. If you come out and you lose to one of those teams, just one, which is last year, you think about it, they played Alabama tough, Texas A&M they beat. It's very feasible that this happens again, and if it does, they lose to one of those teams. I like the back half of that schedule, brother. I mean, I don't think I've really sat down and looked at what Arkansas's got, man. I mean, you get past them, those juggernauts, October 8th, man, you're in cruise control, and you control your own destiny. So, man, am I sleeping on them Razorbacks?
Well, but going back to Justin's question, though, what he's really asking, can the Razorbacks punch their ticket to a college football playoff if they go 11-1?
Yeah, I think you can. I think it's happening.
Here's the path to it, Shane. Alabama has got to probably go undefeated.
Yeah.
And they've got to win the SEC. They've got to look pretty good like Georgia was last year. Hell, like Alabama was the year before, like LSU the year prior. So if you're going to drop a game, it's got to be to a playoff team, no doubt. I think you're going to need South Carolina to be very good this year because you want that on your resume. You're going to need Texas A&M, which is not a leap to say. Maybe a 10-2 Texas A&M because you need some marquee wins on here. And, hell, you probably need BYU and Liberty to be solid too because you talk about this back half of the schedule. It suits up well for them, but Auburn, expectations not that high. LSU, right. Year one under Brian Kelly. Some of those fans think the Tigers are going to be great. We'll see. Ole Miss, what are they going to look like when they're rebuilding? Missouri. I mean, that would be the point on your calendar in November when you have got to have impressive resume wins. Yeah. And I don't know if I'm seeing it here. So that's why I think you need South Carolina and A&M and Alabama. You need them to have outstanding seasons.
So much for optimism, Mike. Here I'm looking at the Razorbacks, and I'm saying, okay, yeah, they're catching Mississippi State at the right time. I think Mississippi State's going to be a top 25 team when they meet because that's right before Kentucky and Alabama. So they may have their first loss with Texas A&M, but they're going to be sitting pretty. I would say they'd be a top 20 team, or maybe even top 15 by that point. Who knows? I'm high on Mississippi State Bulldogs, and if Arkansas can put together a couple of wins after A&M, you got to remember they have to beat A&M or they have to beat Alabama. So we're going to make the same argument with a one-loss A&M or a one-loss Alabama to make it to college football playoffs. Why wouldn't you make the same argument with an Arkansas Razorback that went through the West with only one loss, and that was to an SEC West champion? So I don't know, man. I'm looking at this schedule. I think what you really need LSU and Ole Miss to kind of get sexy by the end of the year, so you can make one of those marquee games. But the fact is you've got them both at home. So I don't know, man.
Now let me tell you though, Shane, why I'm not a big fan of this question. I love it. We probably shouldn't bash him because he's helping the show out here, Justin. He says he's a big fan of the show.
Yeah, you're getting him to unsubscribe right now. Keep it up, Mike. Just keep going. No, I'm just kidding.
But you cannot look at the schedule and say, all right, we'll automatically lose to Bama, but are we a playoff team? That's not the way they're thinking in College Station. You know what they thought going in? I know last year did not go as they wanted, but they circled that game and said, we're going to be nationally televised CBS. Alabama's coming to town. Let's whoop their ass. And guess what? Right. They did it. Now, again, they fell short in many other games that they shouldn't have. But if you're Arkansas, hell, I just put you number 3 in my power rankings. You got mighty Alabama. I know that they've beaten them like 14 years in a row. I get that. But you just got to snap these streaks, brother. And you can't be looking at Alabama like there's some invincible juggernaut because they can get beat. Hell, they got beat twice last year. So if I'm Justin, I'm sitting here saying, why can't we snap this streak? Let's dethrone Alabama. Let's beat their ass in Razorback Stadium. That's a tough place to play. Let's hope it's a night game when Alabama comes to town. Give you all day long to liquor up and get ready for this ball game and dethrone the Crimson Tide. That's the way I'd be looking at it. And if you beat Alabama, there's an outstanding chance you're punching your ticket if you take care of business the rest of the season to the college football playoff.
What's our odds right now? Is there any odds out on Arkansas?
No, I've not seen any odds for any teams really other than, there's odds to win the national championship for a handful of teams, but I don't have those in front of me.
Let me ask you, since I'm playing devil's advocate here. Mike, got $100. You're in Vegas. They're giving you some odds that the Arkansas Razorbacks are going to not win an Natty, not win an SEC, just make it to the college football playoffs. Out of that $100, how committed are you that they're going to be there?
Probably 20. 20.
All right. I mean, you'll take it, right? I mean, I'd take that. If you told me Tennessee Volunteers got a 20% shot to make the college football playoffs, I'm in. But looking at the schedule, I got two teams circled. Texas A&M, Alabama. That's what it comes down to. We got to win one of them, and we got a shot to get to those college football playoffs. So that's just me, man. I'm drinking that orange. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, boys.